She's collapsed. She's broken bones. And she's still here.
I don't remember this bit, but I collapsed and I started fitting in his hallway. Completely out of nowhere after feeling, like I said, amazing, no signs.
Chronic fatigue syndrome, 9 months of nothing. She rebuilt herself as a cyclist. Then her team folded before she'd really started.
They said, oh, so yeah, we've actually known about you for the last 5 years. And I was like, well, how? Because I've only been cycling for like a year and a half.
That team signed her. 2 years later at the Tour de France Femmes, it nearly cost her everything.
Like I broke my collarbone 3 times that year, stage 5 or 6. Crashed again, re-broke the same collarbone.
This is Becky Storrie, and that's only half the story.
Hello humans, welcome to the MWay podcast, brought to you by Martin, that's me.
And Matt.
That's him. Today we're joined by Becky. Becky, thank you.
No, thank you.
I want to start on a not random subject, but maybe a subject that maybe doesn't get talked about enough in women's cycling, is the menstrual cycle and how that affects performance. Because it's not, obviously as a male, it's obviously not something that I naturally think about. I don't know why earlier today I was thinking about that. Yeah. Obviously you were coming in and I was like,
the deep end.
Yeah. And I was thinking, oh, obviously it's, when you think about the high performance of athletes and at your level, there's every tiny percent, isn't it now? Yeah. And here's a natural phenomenon that you have to manage in some way. So yeah, just talk about the challenges, I guess. I assume they are.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's different for everybody. Like it affects everybody differently. I think I've always been quite lucky that mine's never, like I don't really fluctuate from week to week, depending on what phase I am in my cycle. But I know that I've had teammates in the past that really do. They can be like a different person from week 1 to week 4 of their cycle, and they really have to kind of periodize their training around that. So like, and I'm not an expert in this, but from what I do know, there's like certain phases of your cycle where, you know, you're going to feel weaker, so you should kind of ease off like doing any sort of like explosive anaerobic stuff. And there's certain phases where you should really maximize like your strength and getting in the gym, or your endurance, and there's a lot of science behind it. So I know that a lot of coaches like do use that in how they kind of plan the training plan, and they'll plan it around the rider's cycle.
And do the big tech companies try and help with that in regard? Obviously, we all wear Garmin's, don't we? And track our data, is it?
Yeah. I mean, there's every sort of wearable device now, isn't there? I know like a really popular one is the Oura Ring, because that, well, it measures everything like sleep, temperature, heart rate, all the stuff that you need. And on our team, we have basically a giant Excel sheet so we don't use training peaks. We do everything kind of old-fashioned way through this big giant Excel sheet, and we log like everything in there. We can put our sleep, our weight, just how we feel in general, the training, temperature, just everything goes into this file, and that's kind of what they use then to obviously make the changes.
And just to finish off that question, when you're logging through cycles and you're recording your cycle and they're seeing, you know, you're feeling, I guess, patterns certain times, so you're feeling weaker, stronger, etc. So there's an argument, I don't know, is that there's certain times with through that cycle that advantage is the wrong word, but there's an optimum opportunity, just as much as we maybe look at the negatives and go, you know, you feel drained and tired, there's also...
100%. Yeah, like for sure, I think the negatives do outweigh the positives a lot of the time, but there is definitely advantages in certain like phases of a woman's cycle that they can really optimize and get the best out of it. And like you said about not just wearable devices, there's loads of apps. Like there's loads of, like I think there's a lady called, maybe I'm wrong, Dr. Stacey Sims. She's like kind of like the forefront of like the menstrual cycle and women in sport and how we can kind of utilize that. And she's developed certain apps that you can use and give you sort of information, like maybe foods you want to eat at certain phases of your cycle. Like I said, how you want to adapt your training to certain phases. Like there's just so much information out there. Like, well, I think there hasn't been in previous years, but now it's like become a really big thing. That you can kind of use it to your advantage.
Sorry, question. What you're saying there in the phases, there's a bit weaker. What happens when you're kind of planning out that and you see you've got a race exactly around that period where you'd be like, oh, naturally you're going to be weaker. Oh no, big race. What do you, the team, or anyone like around there try to do? What can you do? Yeah,
I mean, unfortunately, it's the human body. You can't suddenly be like, nope, not this week, thank you very much. Like, it is, unfortunately, it just happens. And I think that for me personally, like I said, I'm quite lucky that I don't really change or notice any particular. One key thing I do notice is I don't sleep very well when I'm on my like menstrual cycle. Like, I'll be waking up every hour of every night, and that's like just something that I'm aware of and that I can't change, and it's almost like just accepting it. And I think that's also what a lot of girls that do struggle with it more, it's almost just being like, okay, when this happens, not if this happens, because I know I'm going to feel like this and this. It's kind of just like, it is what it is. Like, I have to deal with it in the best way that I can. And yeah, fortunately it's not something we can just go, no thank you. I'm sure many women would love to, but yeah.
So again, I suppose if we think about menstrual cycle then and food, I guess there's factors to consider around that as well. And just how, I guess, things you can do to maybe minimise the impact of a menstrual cycle. I don't know, but I guess more and more studies and...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the exact science behind it, but I know that more and more research is being done, and there is certain, like I said, depending on what phase you're in, there's certain foods you can eat, there's certain different types of exercise you can do, which can all... play to your advantage or kind of minimise any sort of effects you're having with it.
The bits I read online, were like the cycle. It's very, very individual.
Yeah.
And when I think about protein, I think about kind of most things seem to generally fall in a box, and you can kind of apply it to people. But it seems to be that's what the studies show. It's very individual, which. Yeah. I suppose in some ways is good because you can narrow it right down, but must also be frustrating for
I mean, I think so. I think also, but I think being an athlete, it doesn't matter what level you are, amateur through to professional, I think one of the greatest things that it's taught me is to really understand my body. When I'm tired, when I can push more, how I can get the most out of myself, when I need to kind of take a step back, be that for physical reasons or for like mental reasons. I feel like I really have very good self-awareness, and I know a lot of other athletes that I speak to, they all kind of have that. I think because we're always criticising ourselves, we're always kind of asking questions of like, oh, how did that make me feel? Or did that make me better? Did that make me worse? And I think with the menstrual cycle as well, it is just kind of leaning into that and really listening to your body. And like you said, there is no like one size fits all with it, or do this and this is going to help you, or you struggle with this and that doesn't mean that like I'm going to struggle with that, blah, blah, blah. Or if it's any less significant, it impacts everybody in some sort of way. It is just, learning how to deal with that for yourself and getting the best out of yourself.
That reminds me of, I mentioned her a couple of times on podcast, Elaine Gu. She's a freestyler.
Okay, yeah.
Skier. And she talks about her brain's like, she says, I tinker, my brain is what I tinker with. And I always and obviously she comes out from a very positive angle where, and you studied sports psychology at Stirling. So we then connect these three things of, you're very aware of your body and how you feel, which can be, I guess, good as well as bad, from your, let's call it demon's chimp on your shoulder, to then obviously doing sports psychology, to then being at the high end of elite sport. How do you, for people with those amateur or most of us listening are amateur, I'm sure, how do you balance that? Because that's a constant, like, the brain's such a great place, but also can be a bit
It's a dangerous place.
Yeah, can't it just...
I think, it always asks the questions or... reminds you of the things that maybe you don't want reminded of, or it's a battle. And like I said, it's very individual. And I think I rely on a lot of the experiences that I've had like I said, I wouldn't say I'm old, but in my team, I'm quite old, actually, more mature. That I kind of look back on like my whole career, like even just from like sport, like I've been doing sport my whole life in various forms, swimming, tennis, football, and you can always take something from it. And not even just sport. Like I think one of my biggest things, people always say, sports psychology, but to me it's just psychology, because you can apply every all the principles to every aspect of your life, whether you work in an office, whether you work at a building site, whether you work in ShopRite, it's all the same principles. It's just how you apply them and how that works for you. So we touched on that while the microphones ran out before. Yeah.
And we touched on identity. So, and I suppose we'll maybe talk about that in a moment. But that, I guess, if that your identity is tied to your job, tied to your sport, that it's making sure it's not overly tied to something.
Yeah.
So you maybe just touch on the story you were telling us around, certainly in triathlon, when you got ill, I suppose is the word, better than injured, isn't it? And that journey you went through there around identity.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite common with most young people. They fall into a sport, they find they're quite good at it, and they want to run with it and be like, okay, this is where I'm going to go. I'm going to be a professional. And that's basically what I did. Like I fell into triathlon, became obsessed with it, which most people do. They do one triathlon and then, I don't know what it does to you, but it just hocks you. You're like, I want to just do this, every day. Which I don't get, because it's like mental to train for a triathlon. But yeah, that was my life for like 4 or 5 years. Ended up getting a scholarship at Stirling to do triathlon. Wasn't really there for the degree, was there for the training and to be in the environment with that kind of people. And then I fell ill in the end of my first year, like June 2018. Got diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. Had 9 months of nothing, really. Like I said earlier,
What does that look like for you? Chronic fatigue? Not getting out of bed, or not being able to train, or?
Not being able to execute day-to-day tasks at the level that I was before.
And we talk tasks, sorry.
Yeah.
Just making tea or
training? It can be, it depends, like I said, chronic fatigue, it's a very broad term for everyone. It affects everybody differently. And that's what makes it almost so challenging. It's not like, I've broken my leg and that's going to take a month to recover, or 2 months or whatever. And this is the rehab that you do. Chronic fatigue is kind of like, some days I'm going to struggle to get out of bed. And other days, I can go for a walk and I'm feeling quite good and I think I'm recovered. But then the next day I'm just going to humble you again and remind you that you're not where you were before and you're completely exhausted. It's like exhaustion beyond a level that I can describe. It's just complete and utter exhaustion, overdoing the most minute sort of activities.
So, Mine was kind of just touching on it there, because for you, how did you know that was happening? Was it just some days you felt tired or not, or does it come quite aggressive and suddenly you are at that, I'm just doing nothing? Because as you said, for someone very active, how that kind of goes from being at that level to suddenly not being able to do anything. Could you see that gradual change, or was it that because it was gradual you didn't know until suddenly those tasks were?
Yeah, I mean, at the time it felt like an overnight thing. It felt like yesterday I was training 25, 30 hours a week while doing my degree, and then today. So what the defining moment for me was that every Wednesday morning we used to do an hour-long run after a swim session, and I was feeling amazing. I felt actually I'm in the shape of my life, out for a run, 12k. We always ended up back at my teammate's door for a coffee, get in the doorway, and I don't remember this bit, but I collapsed and I started fitting in his hallway, completely out of nowhere, after feeling, like I said, amazing, no signs, and it was kind of after that I didn't really bounce back from it. But like I said, that in that moment it felt overnight. But now in hindsight, when I look back and I think, God, what was like going wrong? I was doing too much. Like I said, I was 18, 19 years old. That's, your body's going through so many changes, especially as a woman. I'm training 25, 30 hours a week with men, doing the same things or trying to do the same things that they're doing while studying my degree full time. You're kind of like, this is a recipe for disaster. This is, but also I think it's quite hard in triathlon or in most sports to differentiate between tiredness and real fatigue and how that's like impacting you. Like I was napping more, I lost my appetite, I was not maintaining weight. That all these things are like, I'm just losing weight because I'm training, or I'm not hungry because I'm tired, or it's hard to fit in meals because I'm doing 3-4 sessions a day, or going back to the menstrual cycle, I've not even noticed I've not had my period for 6 months because I'm so like caught up in chasing the next thing. But when I look back now, I'm like, there was a red flag, there was a red flag, there was a red flag. But when you're young, you almost think like, oh, I'm invincible. Like, and everything's going so well until it's not, until your body gives you the sign where you're like, yeah, this is not sustainable.
And for you, getting bits of research around that I've done, again, just looking online. Obviously, sometimes you'll be a hangover from viral infection, types of things. For you, if you look back at that time, was it, I just went too deep?
Yeah, I just found the limit. And I think that I'm a very different athlete now to I was back then. I always felt like I could never do enough, that I always had to do more than the next person. And I was always pushing the boundaries. Oh, well, if he's doing that, it doesn't matter if he's a guy or a woman, like, I need to do that, and I need to do it faster, and I need to do more. And I never even, like, I almost thought it was a bit of a weakness to be like, oh, I'm tired. You know, I need a rest. I thought, God, I can't sit still. I can't rest, because then I'm never going to improve. Whereas now we know, even with science, that like resting is where the gains are made from all the work that you do. So like I said, I guess I said earlier, it was kind of one of the worst things that happened to me, and I wouldn't wish on anyone, but it's also one of the best things, because I learned, well, now I'm in the position that I'm in because of it, which I probably wouldn't have been. But now just the way I approach my life and my sport is from a much more balanced point of view. And
do you see, you run a coaching company with your husband, do you see, we'll start again in the amateur space, do you see one of the, and chatting to Timmy Kennick a little while ago, one of the biggest challenges is amateurs? Is holding them back. Yeah, 100%, yeah. We've got many athletes that I don't need a rest day. Why do I need a rest day? Because a lot of people as well, which I'm also guilty of this, even if it wasn't my job, I just love training. Like, even when I retire, I'll be training. I don't know what for, but I'll be doing something just to have the routine, like more for my mental health. Like, if I have a few days off the bike, maybe I enjoy it initially, like, but then after day 3, 4, I'm kind of like, get me out the house, like, don't speak to me, you know, like, I need, until I've done something, then I'm a better version of myself. And that's the case for many people. Like, they do it more for the mental aspect than the physical aspect, but we're constantly telling them, okay, that's fine, but there needs to be a balance. And we kind of work around that by, maybe you don't have a full rest day, but you do like 30 minutes to an hour off a different activity. So whether that's going for a run, going for a swim, so you're doing something, or even if it's just a walk, but you're still resting. But yeah, it's the hardest thing to do. Yeah, I'd imagine. Well, I think we're all guilty of that, aren't we? Yeah. Maybe. No. Yes, definitely. So out of interest, just when you were chatting, I was just thinking about, so we'll just put two categories: elite women's cycling, elite men's cycling. What's happening in the men's space from a performance side that's maybe you're not seeing, or you wish would filter more into the women's side of the sport? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's just more of everything, really. Like, men are living on altitude. They're doing multiple altitude camps throughout the year. They have chefs at every race that they do. Whereas in women, we do a bit, it's becoming more of a thing now to go on altitude a bit more, but you typically maybe just do 1 or maybe 2 altitude camps a year. You'd only have a chef at the Grand Tours, so like the Giro of Vuelta Tour, not at every single World Tour race. So I think it's just little things like that. It's just more of everything. Like, we almost are like, okay, we'll give you bits of this and bits of that, but we're not going to give you access to everything, because for whatever reason and I also get it, it's money. You know, it's the same with coverage. So we're getting better, we're getting more and more coverage. As now we've got the Tour, there's more money coming into the sport. But it's a good and a bad thing, because then some teams can really thrive off that, because they've got all the funding, and other teams, and the gap gets bigger. But you really see it. I even just think in the 5 years that I've been in the professional field, of how different the level is now, as like you say, all these little things have increased. Like, what would have got you like a top 10 5 years ago would, you're lucky to finish now. Wow. You're kind of like, that's how massive the jump is made. And I always feel like every winter I'm like, okay, I've made, some good steps this winter. I'm in a good place coming into this season. First race of the year, whoa, everyone's made like 5 steps. And it's just, for those little tiny things that I guess we're looking at the men's cycling, and we're getting more in the women's cycling. Yeah. So, I know, or again, observing, and I guess, well, look, I see more men's because there's more coverage of men.
Yeah.
You see, like, the start of the season that they're going into racing. I suppose back in the day, you go to race to get fit, but now it's race. Is that the same in women's from all the women's racing?
I actually think as well, it's always kind of been like that in women's cycling, which is what I love about it. I think it makes it a lot more, like, I love watching all forms of cycling, but I love watching women's cycling because it's a lot less predictable. So for example, I'm sure when you watch the stage of the Tour de France, you can be like, okay, right, well, this stage, nothing's going to happen for 50k. And then he's going to attack probably on this climb, and then it'll come back to be a big bunch sprint. Or you can almost predict what's going to happen, or who's going to ride, who's going to go in the breakaway. Whereas in women's cycling, for whatever reason, it just seems to be, maybe like say because the stages are shorter, we don't race for 21 days, thank God. I actually don't think that's a good thing. But like, it makes it a lot more aggressive. So I kind of like that unpredictability about it.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you race for 21 days? Just don't think it's right for the body.
Yeah, I mean, I just did 9 days at the Giro last month, and that was enough. I was thinking, God, like 9 days, we'd be just getting to our first rest day if this was like a men's race. And I thought that's enough. And I also think, like I said, it would then take away, like, we'd then be more racing to survive rather than it was what we just did was 9 one-day races back to back to back, which makes it brutal but makes it exciting, and it's something for everybody rather than just like, we're just going to toot around 150 watts and then we'll race the last 30k. That's
So for me, if we're going back a bit, chronic fatigue, how did you end up in the cycling? So how did that all come about? And the decision to not do triathlon, kind of drop the swimming and running and pick up the pure cycling side of things? Yeah,
so I think initially when I first got ill, I thought, this is going to be a couple of weeks. I'll be back with the squad, next month, and it'll all be fine. And then obviously as the months went on and I wasn't really getting anywhere, and people were telling me, there is no timeline. You just maybe the more you rest now, the quicker you'll bounce back. And I was getting frustrated, obviously, naturally with that, because I was like, well, I just want a date. I know when I'm coming back. What can I do? And like I said, it wasn't like that. So I kind of, the first 3 months, I was just kind of in denial, really. Like, I was quite bad that there'd be some moments when, like, my husband Cameron would nip out because he'd be still training, and I'd be like, I'm going to sneak on the turbo and do a little 30 minutes for an hour, and he'd come in and be like, what are you doing? Like, you should be resting, because I was like just desperate to do something. And I also think that, like most people, their whole social circle are typically athletes, because like that's things that we love to do together. And I found that really hard because I was kind of like, are my friends going to still want to be my friends because I can't do the things that I love of them? Like, is my husband still going to want to be with me because that's how we met in this sport and that's what we do together? You start going through this, I guess almost, I wouldn't say depression because I think that's quite a big word to use for it, but kind of, you just feel a bit empty because you're like, well, everything I envisioned is now.
Identity piece again.
That whole identity, like I said, I was like, well, this is my life. If you'd asked me what I'm doing in 5 years, I'd had a full plan and say this, and I'll have won this, and I'll be racing for this, and blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it just goes out the window. So I think, I kind of had 3 months where I was, not the best version of myself, also to the people around me, because you naturally take it out on those people. And then after that, I kind of, thank God I had my degree, because I was like, I'm really glad I can just kind of throw my energy into this. Which is why I really encourage people. A lot of athletes, like I said, we have in our coaching business, are quite young and they just want to quit their A-levels or drop out of school and go all in on cycling. And I always say, well, that's, you need to have something else in your life for when things like this happen, because they do happen. So naturally my grades went from here to here, and I thought, actually, this is quite good. Like, I'm really loving this subject.
Becca the triathlete, Becca the nerd.
Then I suddenly was like, I'm going to become
the academic.
I'm going to become a psychologist. Like, this is like great, and kind of accepted that, like, okay, maybe I won't be doing sport again. And I also felt quite bitter about it. I think naturally you're like, okay, well, it's been taken away from me, so I don't want to do that. But then as I started gradually getting better, getting back in the gym, gaining a bit more weight, getting stronger, again. I tried the swimming, but getting up at 4 a.m. when you're already fatigued is never a good idea. So I kind of struggled with that. And running, even when you're 100% fit and healthy, is so demanding on the body that I also couldn't really manage that. So I kind of just fell into the cycling because it was always my favourite out of the 3 disciplines and always one of my strongest ones. So, which most triathletes, you have to spend more time on your weaknesses than your strengths. So I never really got to spend a significant amount of time in it that I wanted to. So I was kind of just enjoying just focusing on one thing and also kind of starting from scratch again to be like, oh, like this is like a new sport, and dramatically seeing improvements as the months went on by, because like I said, I was spending more time in it. I got Andrew Roach, my first cycling coach. He was like, yeah, I'll coach you, and we were seeing like dramatic improvements, and him telling me like, oh no, you're actually quite good at this. I was like, oh yeah, I also really like this. So it just kind of happened.
One sport's easy. I used to do 3.
Well, I kind of thought that. I kind of thought, God, it's really nice to just do one sport and try and be really good at that one than be 80-90% at all 3. Like I don't know how people, like Will, for example, I don't know how you can do the opposite way. Then you add in 2 sports like that. It's just mental. But yeah, and then also I was really lucky that Scottish Cycling, because I was still in Stirling at that point, kind of took me under their wing and were like, oh, why don't you know, because Cameron was doing on track cycling at that point, so I would go to his sessions, and they said, oh, why don't you give it a go on the track? And I was like, okay, like I'll try it, and was doing a bit of track sessions with them, doing a bit on the road. They took me to my first like bike race, which was like a crit down in Lancaster, and then a road race on the Sunday. And to be honest, so that was like in start of 2019, I think I did my first bike race. It kind of like at that point, like I didn't even really know you could do it as a job. I wasn't looking for it to be a job. I was just really grateful to be able to do something and do it well again, and just enjoying it. And then COVID happened, and it was coming up to the Commonwealth Games, and it just
So you went to the Commies for the Ireland in 22?
22, yeah.
What was that experience like?
Amazing, yeah.
Was that kind of out of the blue, the opportunity, or?
No, I mean, I always wanted to go to the Commonwealth Games, but I always thought it was going to be for triathlon. So it was always like a goal to go to the Commonwealth Games. And then, like I said, I'd started cycling the 2019, and we had COVID, and I finished my degree in 2021. And I kind of was in that point where I was like, okay, so I need to get a job, but I don't know what I want to do. So I either get a job or I go back to uni and do another degree, like do a master's or something to kind of extend this, life that I'm doing, trying to be a cyclist and go to the Commonwealth Games. And I actually started another degree at Strathclyde University to be a psychology teacher. It was like a conversion course, 1 year, but it was 9 till 5, and then the work on top of that, the school work bit. And that was in the winter of 21, and that's kind of when the selection was being made before the Games, like the following August. And once I got selected in like the November, I think it was, I kind of was like, okay, like I don't want to do this at like 90%. I'm going to go all in. And I told my parents that I'd paused my degree, that I could return the following year and take a year out. But I left, like I fully quit and was like, no, okay, that was kind of the first time that I was like, if I go all in on this and I get a good result at the Commonwealth Games, then I can get maybe a pro contract off the back of it. And that was kind of like the first time where I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do with this.
And I think it was Lizzie and Anna with you. So you've got 2 professionals. Yeah. Yeah, okay, so you've got kind of a benchmark to think this is the level I need to get to. Yeah,
and I'd also started doing some racing in Europe. Like I'd joined Cam's Basso, which were like a continental team in Britain at that time, and they gave me some opportunities to race. Actually, my first World Tour race, because it was the Tour of Britain. The best continental teams in Britain get a start. So I kind of knew what the level was. And like I said, having Lizzie and Anna as also role models, I could kind of be like, okay, I need to be sort of doing this or getting these results. But like I said, it doesn't always just work out like that. You need to have a lot of luck involved as well.
And the Cam's Basso, is that we'll get you in the race. There's no, I presume, no salary in that. It's just
No, no salary. It was just that you don't pay for anything, which is also a big head start. And then, you get the opportunity. And I mean, I'd already been a student for 4 years. And like I said, I'm also really lucky because my parents, like I said, they fully support. They said, okay, 1 year, give it everything that you've got and we'll back you, which I know is not the case for everybody as well. So that was, I mean, maybe they would have thought about it differently and if they'd have known I'd fully quit the course. But, you know, it all worked out in the end. So,
I'm interested to talk a bit about the luck point because what would you consider your luck in regard to that? Those opportunities?
I think basically from the start, from like Scottish cycling, having the opportunity of like a national governing body say, you know, we know you're not Scottish. I have Scottish parents, so I could represent Scotland, but I made it clear, you know, I'll always represent the Isle of Man. With no kind of, there was nothing for them to gain, but they said, yeah, you're more than welcome here. We'll support you to do training. We'll take you to races. That's one aspect, having good people around you. And also, I guess, like you say, just, and then it kind of was the same going into the UK scene, racing. I raced on what was the development team of Femmes, which was called Team on Form, which is still a team now. It develops loads of really, good riders. To be like, okay, you race with us for a season, show us what you've got, and we'll give you the opportunity to step up. Again, getting on a team like Femmes where, you don't get paid, but you get exposure to races like the Tour of Britain, where you're on show for every DS and every team. And for sure, you need to get a result for them to look at you. But that was enough to, kind of put my name in a few teams' ears to be like, okay, this girl's racing. But I think my biggest thing of luck was actually, so before the Commonwealth Games, I'd originally signed for a team that was Wahoo Lacol, which Anna and Lizzie both raced for. And I thought this is going to be a really good stepping stone because it was a continental team with a salary. They raced a lot of World Tour races, but it wasn't a World Tour team. So I thought I can do 2 years with this team, gain as much experience as possible, and then go to the World Tour. And then sadly, and literally at the end of November of 2022, because I was meant to join them 2023, 2024, they lost their sponsorship. And we were told, you can look elsewhere. And I'm thinking, it's the end of November. Where am I going to go? It's just impossible. And then I was reaching out to every team.
No agent, you're doing this?
No agent. I didn't have an agent. I was just sending emails to teams that I knew wouldn't even consider me. But I just thought, at least they have my name. They know I'm interested. Pride gone. Email, phone, everyone. And then the DS on what would have been Wahoo Lacol, he used to work for what was DSM at the time, now Picnic. And he said, I can send your data across to the team and maybe they can have a conversation with you about it. So they were on my training peaks. The next day they were like, we can do an interview. We're quite interested in a few things and we'll have a chat. And then we do this interview. And then at the end of the interview, they said, so we've actually known about you for the last 5 years. And I was like, well, how? Because I've only been cycling for like a year and a half. And they said, your sports scientist at the University of Stirling is a guy called Dio Saunders, and he now is a trainer at Ineos, but he used to work for DSM. And when he was doing his PhD at Stirling, he did all our VO2 max testing, all the sort of power testing we did in the lab for triathlon. And he was always saying to me, you'd be really, you're really good at cycling. You should do this. And I always brushed it off. And he sent them my data back then, 4 or 5, massive conflict of interest or whatever they call it, confidentiality, gone out the window. But he'd sent them my data and said, you should keep an eye on this girl. It's kind of thanks to him, really. I mean, thank God he just thought, we'll send it. I'm not going to ask her. And that's the kind of biggest luck thing. Because I actually, at the time when I was looking for a team, I'd reached out to him and I said, I know you're in men's cycling, but this is the situation that I'm in. And I think maybe in the back of his mind, he was like, oh, I'll reach out. Remember that girl I sent you? So it just shows you never know who you're going to need or what.
I'm interested in, I mean, maybe we won't dive into here about the comment around, and not necessarily just you saying luck, but that the and we were talking about that off air, weren't we, about some other Isle of Man based cyclists that maybe haven't had the luck. And I just wonder in life, because you've obviously mentioned a bad luck situation, you're this close with the team, and the opportunity's gone, and arguably if that call, you had an email them, then you could very well, I wouldn't say not be saying, but we're not saying talking about your professional career, you're saying about a career you maybe nearly had, and just like, does luck really exist, or is it just? I mean, I think you also getting like very deep.
I mean, we're getting very philosophical, aren't we? But I mean, I think you also do create your own luck. There is a lot of that. It's how you approach those situations. I mean, it's very easy for me to sit there and say, oh, this is all great because it all worked out, you know, happy ending. Like, it's very easy for me to say that. But I know there's been many people also, when they've hit these sort of hurdles, that they kind of just go, okay, well, that's it. Like, I'm not going to send that email, or why should I reach out? And that's kind of where you have to be like, well, no, if you really want this is
ego
what you... Ego aside, this is what you have to do. And yeah, it's quite sad. Sometimes I want to shake some people. I'm like, well, just what's the worst that can happen? You know, they can just say no, or they can say not now. But you never know in like a few years.
Fear of rejection, isn't it? But
it is, it is just that. Like, so people don't want to do it for whatever reason. And then I kind of just think, well, then how much do you really want it? So I do think that is a bit of it as well.
For sure. So just to finish off the commies bit, I know, I don't know when the race was in regard to the... Did you get to go to the opening ceremony?
No, we didn't go to the open. We went to the closing ceremony.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that experience as a whole?
Yeah. I mean, just to be part of, Team Isle of Man with Sir Mark Cavendish as your teammate is also pretty epic, isn't it? There's not many people can say that they can go to a... And also, I just think, like, it's the only time... Obviously, we have the Island Games, you can represent the Isle of Man, but it's the highest level that you can represent the Isle of Man in. And we're all such proud people. We're always... Any opportunity to get... I mean, just driving around, I mean, especially with today with Tynwald, but you're never, like, 1 metre away from a Manx flag, I feel like, on the Isle of Man. They're just everywhere. So it's just such a proud... like feeling.
Yeah, and you've done Island Games as well.
I did Island Games in Gibraltar 2019, so that was like also the first year in cycling.
And sorry, so you'd have so it's a very short space of time
but that was also never meant to happen. I originally one of the girls had an injury or was ill that had got picked for the team, and they had a spot, and I remember Roche actually called me, like, I think it was, not to exaggerate, but it was with less than a week before we were travelling to the game, maybe 5 days. And he was like...
What's your tracksuit size?
Yeah, he was like, can you get to the airport at this date, at this time? Do you want to race the Island Games? And I was like, I don't know if I can get there, but I'll be there. And that also, just that opportunity happened.
Yeah. So let's talk about the professional career. So... When you signed, you mentioned earlier, apologies everyone, because we flicked on and off air because of a tech problem. But you mentioned about moving to the Netherlands. I think we were off air talking about the team, weren't we? So is that, having chatted to a few guys and girls, it's not something are they like, I wouldn't say got a gun to it, but they like, you need to be in the Netherlands? Because again, I mean, I don't know, speaking to Max, he was moving, I think getting a place in maybe Andorra, but I don't know whether, certainly the way he presented it was, I want to go to Andorra rather than the team saying go to Andorra. So is that, I mean, different, or is that?
That's a bit different. In my case, it was a bit more, you need to come to the Netherlands. But in our team, we're quite unique in that they have a, I don't even know how I would describe it, but they have an estate of houses as part of the team that all the riders are entitled to a house, which is unbelievable opportunity as well. And we kind of use it. It's called the
picnic estate.
Well, it's called the KCC, the Keep Challenging Centre, because that's like our whole philosophy as a team, keep challenging. And it's like a little cul-de-sac and every rider, well, the women and the development team are all entitled to an apartment, but it's a house, it's like a studio house. And yeah, we're all neighbours basically, and it's an opportunity that you can live there, you can train with your teammates, or like typically in like the Ardennes Classics, because we're like right by the course of Amstel, the team all come together, and it's just a facility basically what we can use. And it's not mandatory that you live there, but in my situation it was quite unique because I'd signed my contract on like the 1st of December. They had no idea who I was, no real background in the sport. They were essentially throwing me a lifeline and giving me like, a lot.
On, should we say one recommendation on data?
Based on, an interview, the odd result, and a really good recommendation. They were, essentially offering me a lifeline. And so I kind of also get that they were like, okay, we're putting a lot of trust in you, so you need to also fully back us. And so I was like 100%. And I also, at the time, it was quite a big move, like I said, because I was leaving my partner behind. It was a quick move because it was like, you need to be there next month. All of a sudden, this is going to be your life now. And you're going to be, the first time in the World Tour, just getting used to that as well. There was a lot of change at that time, and it was quite overwhelming. But at the same time, looking back, I'm really glad that I kind of immersed myself in it. And whereas maybe if I was at home, it's easier to be a bit more like sit back, and it's easier to not put yourself fully out there and do it. So I'm grateful that they were like, this is part of it, you need to come.
I'm interested, like the cul-de-sac, is that like, if you look at your sponsors, those sponsors around the team, is that connected to this, we'll call it facility area, or is it just the way they want to run their
I think it's I don't know the full background in it. I know it's been around for a number of years, but it's kind of their philosophy as a team, and that is what makes
way for bonding and stuff
it makes them really unique in that sense. And I do think, like, particularly the development boys, it's like a fantastic opportunity because they're not necessarily getting like a livable salary, but they're getting a house, they're getting some money, and the opportunity to move away from home and race their bike and really like be there as a team. But you're also not all in one house. You have, it's a lot of independence, and I think it's like a fantastic opportunity for, like I say, to get people on their feet with it.
And that signing, have you got an agent now? Did you have an agent now?
So no, I didn't have an agent for that first contract. It was just a 1-year contract. Okay. Because like I said, they were offering me a lifeline. And but after that, I was like, I'm getting an agent because I don't want to be in that situation. Not that an agent would have really made much. I mean, it would have made a big difference just to take the pressure off. I wouldn't be the one calling and emailing. But I kind of was like, if I'm in that situation again, I want to have like full support. So then I got an agent after that.
And do agents, like, are they really there to, well, obviously they're there to negotiate the contract, but do they, and take the pressure away? But there's an element that, does it help to have that barrier between you and the let's call it the entity, because you're obviously trying to get the best deal you want, and it gets rid of that, I feel like I'm worth a bit more, and them saying jog on, and the agent basically she's that barrier between.
I think it is that. It's like you say, it depends. Like, I feel like now I'm going into my 5th year of the team next year, I've got a really good relationship with management and the staff, and I feel like we could sit down, and if the opportunity to extend, we could sit down and we could have quite a nice conversation about this is good, blah, blah. But then I think the financial aspect is always an awkward one, because one, I feel like as a rider, I mean, people can gauge how much people earn just through talking through the grapevines, but it's not really something that you speak about, particularly with your teammates. You don't go, how much are you on? How much, it is an awkward area. So you also don't really know how much you're worth. And that's where they are like, okay, no, this is what this rider's getting paid. This is where, so I feel like they kind of take that off you. And then you don't have to have that awkward conversation like, no, can I have more than that? Or, it's just, you can't really do it. So
I presume they've got a better feel, like you say, a better feel for the market to know
they have a better feel, And I feel like half the time, if you're lucky, you feel almost like, okay, I don't really need them. We're having minimal contact. But then when things like what happened to me happened, you're like, thank God I've got them, because that's where it really makes the difference.
And personal sponsorship in women's sport cycling, from the men's side, is that again, I use the word catching up, because I assume ultimately it was behind.
Yeah.
Just unfortunately the way I suppose the whole world developed over 100 years. Is that getting to a much better place now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have like Demi Vollering, who's the best current female rider in the world. She's got sponsorship with Nike. Also, like Polestar, the car company, like a lot of these individual sponsorships.
Will your agent be out looking for you?
I mean, if they call Nike tomorrow, I'm not going to complain, but I don't think they'd be getting an answer. Okay. Yeah, but they can do that. But my contract, it also depends on the team you're in. So like in my team, I'm not allowed external sponsorship because...
They want you on that bike, that helmet, those glasses.
Yeah, because if I had a car sponsorship, it would have to be a Volvo because that's who sponsors the team. It's certain things like that. You don't want that conflict of interest, but other teams, and I guess it's also what you negotiate in your contract, kind of the flexibility that you want. Yeah,
you're Volvo and you've got a bit more leverage.
You've got a lot more leverage when you've won the Tour de France. You can say, actually, I didn't want that. Whereas, there's pros and cons, I guess. And also if you're employed, you're self-employed, that all changes. Yeah, things you can do.
So what's that when you say employed?
So like I'm on an employed contract, which means that I have all my insurances, pension, everything like a normal job, a bit more security through the team. Whereas if you're on a self-employed contract, you get paid, like the minimum is a bit more, but that's because you have to do all your own insurances and things. And
do you decide or is it the team that go, we only employ, or we only self-employ people?
It's team dependent. Okay. So I know, for example, our team, I don't think we do any self-employed contracts. They approach it as like, we want everyone employed, whereas other teams you can join and they can be like, yeah, we'll do self-employed, or I think it just varies teams.
Dynamics of the team. Yeah, okay. I've not heard of that before.
Yeah.
And is it common in women, again, all through all levels of, but like, and again, I'm not, I appreciate we're talking a bit about finances, so I'm not being too nosy, but bonuses in regard to, again, knowing how men's cycling used to win a race, share it with your team, that carries over in you.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's team dependent and what you kind of agree as a team. So in our team, I quite like how we do it. We just split everything individually. Everyone gets a cut, doesn't really matter. It's not like you do this race, so it's split between these 6 riders. It's divided across everyone. And I don't know if it's right. We used to also have an extra, like divide a portion for also the staff as well originally, but I don't know if that's still the case. Whereas in other teams, I know it's a lot more, okay, right, just those 6 riders in that race who won that prize money are entitled to that, or the leader gets a higher percentage off the amount, or the domestique gets less, sort of things. And also, like say bonuses, a lot of people, like some teams, they all have, if you win a stage, you're going to get such and such amount. I don't have that in my contract. We don't do that as far as I'm aware in our team, but I know it is a thing. It just is like I said, it's what's negotiated in your contract really.
And do you have minimums in women's cycling as well?
Yeah, so it's the same with men and women. There's minimum salary also for like neo-pro. That's different as well. But like I said, that minimum changes if you're, so I don't know exactly, but say the minimum for an employed contract is like 50,000. For a self-employed, that's probably like 65,000 because, like I said, the insurances and pension and things like that. So that's kind of, and then each year on year that maybe increases 5,000, whatever. But that's just a guideline.
Yeah. Interesting. So I want to talk about Tour de Femmes. She did I was going to say 24?
24, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So obviously, again, I'm assuming it is. I'm not assuming. I know it's the pinnacle to ride that. Well, some people may argue the Olympics, etc., but let's call it a professional cyclist. That's where you want to be. So what was that? I mean, you're talking here 4.5, 5 years from picking up a bike, which is pretty mental, really.
Yeah, it was pretty mental. I think also just the year that I had in 2024 was just mental. Like I broke my collarbone 3 times that year. And I, to be honest, I shouldn't have gone to the race. I actually don't know why I went because I broke my collarbone the first time in the April in TTT training for the Vuelta. I had a mechanical issue on my bike, crashed, broke my collarbone. Thank God I'd pulled off as I crashed because I would have taken the whole Vuelta team down. So then that didn't happen. And then I managed to get back again just before the Giro. I did Tour de Suisse, then I did the Giro. Crashed again in the Giro, broke the same collarbone. This was like, again, a month before Tour de France Femmes. Got to the Tour de France, wasn't in the shape that I wanted to be in, just because of obviously a lot of rehab. And then, crashed again on stage. I can't remember. I think I only had 1 or 2 days to go, stage 5 or 6. Crashed again, broke the same collarbone. When did
you find out you were riding the Tour?
I knew.
Was that part of the season's plan?
Yeah, I knew it was in my plan at the beginning of the season, but it's also the Tour de France, so you're not going until you're on the start line.
Yeah. I assume you're crashing in the Giro and also, you're holding your collarbone, you're thinking, shit, can I go to the Tour here?
Yeah, the Vuelta, the one before the Vuelta, I thought, it's fine, it's early enough. Then the Giro, I kind of thought, this is going to be hit and miss if I'm ready for this. And in hindsight, I wasn't ready. But also the crash was just unlucky again. But I think, like I said, it can always change up until you go.
Yeah. And what's the experience like?
I mean, it was pretty cool because the year I did it, the first 3 stages were in the Netherlands. So as a Dutch team in the Netherlands, I think actually, maybe I'm wrong, but one of the stages we started like basically right outside PostNL's office as one of our main sponsors. And it was just, I remember actually, it's the first time I've like gone on to like a team presentation, like shaking, because I was like, oh my God, like there's goosebumps, like there's so many people here. And also just to be like, maybe it's cliche, but like they're all here for women's cycling as well. It felt like I was at a men's race. I was like, oh my God, like this is amazing. Like there wasn't like a gap in the and also it's the Netherlands, like they love a bike race. Even if it's like just your local club race, there'll be crowds of people, but it was just like, wow, this is pretty cool. And we also won the yellow jersey in the first 2 stages, which was, again, I think at the time I didn't look at it as like a really big deal, because you just constantly like, okay, that's done, goal tick, that's one. And also I was having a difficult time anyway because I wasn't fit, I was struggling. But now I look back, I'm like, okay, well, I should have appreciated that more at the time. Yeah,
I'd imagine that the responsibility, because then you're obviously as teammates, you're all looking after each other to some degree, but that yellow jersey and that responsibility to control a race and
it was amazing. And also to have my dad there. My dad, he doesn't come to many bike races, but he always comes to the big ones. And I think that was pretty cool to be like, also for both of us, because like I said, I didn't grow up cycling. So he just thinks like, I don't know. Now he thinks every race is like that, which they are pretty cool, but that is like obviously the pinnacle. And I think it was like a real moment of like, God, you wouldn't think you'd be here like 5 years ago, you know?
Too right. It's amazing. So if I roll forward to the Giro, you did this in April, I'm going to say. April time, end of April?
No, it was, this year's Giro.
Oh, May, sorry, we're in July now, aren't we?
Yeah. So start of May, start of June, end of May,
Yeah, so it's 8 days.
9 days.
9 days.
Yeah.
What's that? So you finished it. Pretty tired, I assume.
Yeah.
What's that? Haven't got out the back end of that. Is that the first tour you've finished?
No.
You've finished the other one. So
I did.
So that. I really want to chat about fatigue and just coming out of those events, 9 days, just how, like, not only physically but mentally.
Yeah.
I presume because you're constantly on edge. Just riding a peloton. Look, got to get food, got to eat, got to drink, what's the race tactics? Someone yabbering away in your ear telling you to do stuff. Yeah,
I mean, for like you say, you race 9 days, but with like the days before, the days after, it's like a 2 week period where you're constantly switched on. And although you're 110% maybe switched on for that 4-5 hours of racing, like you say, it starts in the morning and also after, because this year's Giro was particularly hard because it didn't start the same time every day. So I always think if it starts the same time every day, you're kind of into like a sort of routine. Like we race at 11, then we'll race 4 hours, then we'll have mass start. One day we started at 11, one day we started at 2 because we had really long transfers. So every day, sometimes we had like maybe 2-3 hours before the stage and after. So there's no time to just sit on your hotel bed and just be like, oh, I can watch Netflix for an hour, because we were constantly like, okay, now we're at the race, we're eating, we're getting off the race, we're eating again. It is just like eat, sleep, race, repeat for 9 days. And I think people underestimate the mental strain of it. Like, I know I always kind of, after I do a tour like that, the first kind of few days at home, I struggle to even make a decision, because I'm like, I've just been living off this schedule every morning that I get 9 a.m. You do this at this time, you eat at this time, you drink at this time, you know, then you do your warm up, and then I get home and I'm like, what do I want for breakfast? And you're like,
chef.
Yeah, Cameron. But I'm like, I can't make a decision. It's like, because I don't know, you're just so like one day after the next, one day after the next. So it takes, I would say it took me I didn't have long this year, because I had a week before I did Tour de Suisse, and I was also moving house and country in that week. Don't recommend that, because that was just horrendous. But it took me a good 5 days to kind of be like, I feel ready to ride my bike again.
Yeah, so because you went into Swiss fairly. And I know we had a couple of messages saying you're pretty tired now. So that's just, again, listen to your body, understand we've just done 2 hard races here and the Nationals, which is never a tootle in the park, is it?
No.
Right.
Yeah. And also the heat, just the conditions, like the Giro is always relentless because it's always hot. Swiss this year was also brutal. It's like 37, 36 degrees. And being, a little manxy. I'm not built for that. Those conditions. I'd much rather it was like chucking it down the rain. Weirdly, but it's just too hot. Doesn't matter how much heat prep you do. You're like, God, I'm not built for this. Have
you done much altitude training?
No, not much altitude, but a lot of heat prep. And that also kind of has the same sort of benefits to altitude training.
Is that heat sending you somewhere, or heat as in sticking on a heat suit?
No, usually, either, I've been quite lucky because I've been in Spain for the last year and a half, mostly, or between Spain and the Netherlands. And the Netherlands also gets hot in the summer, it can be like, 35, 40 degrees, so you don't really need to be putting on extra layers, but it can sometimes be, putting on a few extra jackets in the final hour of a training ride, or coming in and doing the heat protocol that we'll do, which is like 45 minutes on the turbo, some efforts, raising the body temperature up. And I use a core sensor as well, which is also really useful to kind of track it, because in the past I've just done it off feeling and RPE, which is kind of dangerous because
RPE?
Like
RPE?
RPE,
Okay.
It's just like, how do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh, okay, right.
I feel all right, but it's very subjective. So it's, whereas now with the sensor I can track it a lot more.
That's taking your body temperature and core.
My core body temperature. Okay. So I'm not getting to like dangerous levels and pushing it too far, or having too many jackets on, and literally cooking myself. Right. So
Where does that sensor go?
Just on your heart rate monitor.
Oh, okay.
You can just clip it to the side.
Oh, okay.
It's really, really useful.
Yeah, because I've seen that over the last couple of years, there seems to be, I don't know, I wouldn't say cycling goes through fads by any stretch, but 5 years, 6 years, 7 years ago, everyone had a protein drink as soon as they finished a race. I think now I see these red things, wherever they
drinks.
are. But heat one seems to be the thing at the moment, doing heat. You see people in their, basically it looks like a painter's outfit on the turbo trainer. Fully layered up. And then my favourite bit is part of our heat protocol is like the 10 minutes after, like the marination phase, I call it, where you literally lie on the floor and you're covered in a blanket, just like letting the heat just marinate you. I guess you're just cooking. It's the final bit. It's horrible. You've got a wash job for those suits.
Oh, it's nasty, but
So just to finish off, looking forward, what's the rest of the year look like? What does the future look like? I think you're with the team, you signed a contract till 27. I assume from everything you say, you'd love to hang around with them as well. But what does the future hold? What are your goals, ambitions?
Yeah, I think like I touched on it in the beginning, I try not to look too far ahead because, I know anything can... I love when people are like, what's your 5-year plan? I'm like... What's my next week plan? I'm just trying to get through the day. But like I said, I'm with the team for another year. That'll be 5 years, which is, I'm grateful for. Like I said, after that first 1 year, I didn't think I'd still be here 5 years later. So it's been nice to kind of develop in the same environment, really kind of like have those relationships, which I think will stand me in good stead for the longevity of my career. I've been quite lucky that I've not jumped from team to team, which I understand people do. They want to change their environment, but I think for me, I always was like, I want to invest. Or a teammate actually said to me, you really want to invest in your first 5 years of your career in being in the right place for you. And I feel lucky that I've had that. So yeah, that's kind of, just staying with the team. And then I've got a bit of a break now. I'm not racing until end of August again. But it's a bit of a shame because I'm going to do a 1-day race in France, Plouay. Then I would typically do like the Tour of Romandy, but that's been cancelled due to financial reasons. Then I think we have another couple 1-day races in France in September. Then it'll either be like the Tour of Holland or off to China. Tour of Guangxi, so I'm kind of leaning more towards China than racing in the Netherlands. It's not really my comfort zone, and also just to go to China would be quite nice, because I think like that's one of the greatest things about this job is that you go to places that you wouldn't normally, maybe some people do, but I wouldn't normally think, let's go to China. And
do you try and get your head up when because again, I imagine in certain aspects, traveling with a team, etc., you just kind of like, I've got to be here, I've got to do that, and then you race, your head's down, you finish, and then you're basically kicked out of the country to go home. Do you try and be conscious to get your head up and look around? Yeah, I try to, and I think I'm quite lucky in that my mum and dad always remind me to do that, because mum was like, you see all these amazing places, and I'm like, well, I see a lot of nice hotels, I can do a good hotel rating. Back wheel. Yeah, but I don't see a lot of airports. Luckily, I love airports. I just love being in an airport, so it's quite good. But I definitely try to, if we have the opportunity, which is usually maybe the day before the race, because usually after the race you're just straight off, like in the day or days before, to try and go to a nice coffee shop, just see a bit more of the place. Always buy a magnet. I'm a magnet collector as well. That's like a little ritual that I do. So yeah, it would be pretty cool to go to China and finish the season there. Yeah, no, I'd imagine it'd be ace. Well, certainly congratulations on your success. Obviously not really chatted before, but seem very level-headed. Try to be. You got me on a good day. And I guess I think we touched on maybe hopefully before the audio cut out earlier around the psychology bit. I'd imagine helps a big chunk into that. But yeah, congratulations. Good luck for the rest of the year. Thanks for sparing us a little bit of time. And and obviously if anybody, two things actually. I suppose if people want to reach out, bit of sport, bit of coaching, whatever level, to reach out to yourself and Cameron. And the second thing, I guess, just generally, I'll put you on the spot, but I'm sure you would. I guess women in sport, it doesn't have to be cycling, but want to reach out, want to have a conversation, obviously very approachable, reach out, DM me, as it called, and just I'm sure you're always happy to give a bit of guidance and support. I know I've seen you promote even local women's racing that the club we're part of put on. You're very helpful in that area. I mean, I think it's a responsibility, isn't it? I think I wouldn't be where I am without people giving me those opportunities, or like I say, having these certain races put on. So I almost feel like if you can, you should. I think it's almost part of it. So hopefully we can see many more women racing bikes. Too right. We'll see you at the Castletown Comet in a couple of weeks if you're still on. I'll be there. So I'm excited to be there this year. I'm not sure we'll give you an entry. I'm not sure the other competitors would want you in there. Or your sponsors probably. No, I won't be racing, but I'll be there. I can be top swanny. I can hold jackets. I can hold water bottles. Cool. All right. Thanks, Becky. Appreciate it. Thank you. Pleasure. It's Word Out from Martin. And Word Out from Matt.
Poor flimsy humans. Don't you wish you were flawless like me? A towering inferno of physical perfection?
I hate to pop your blimp-like ego, but you're not perfect.